I have always loved scissors. I love the sharp edge of the blade, the sound of the blade slicing together, snipping away at cloth, hair, or maybe even flesh. Let me rephrase that first sentence. I obsessed over scissors. In fact, I collected them up until 7 years ago when I was 15. Let me explain the story from the beginning. It's pretty long, so sit back and bear with me. It was the August of 2012, and school had just been let back in. Of course, I was an apathetic student. I spent most of my time ignoring my stepmom and listening to creepypasta. I would sit in my cutesy bed, biting on the end of my favorite pair of scissors, lightly dragging my tongue across the blade, like I should. I love the sharp, cool metal. I tried to drown out the sound of the Spanish lullaby music in the background story. The same scene that plays out of my jewelry box. I dropped the blade on the floor and hugged myself, a tear streaming down my face. How much longer do I have to bear the agony of everyday life? I think silently. I close my eyes and sigh, sing back up quietly. I exit on YouTube, and the sound of a dark voice still in the back of my mind. I pull up Facebook and hurriedly type in, does anyone know where to get collectible scissors, like sharp ones? I get a few concerned replies. One person suggests eBay, and someone I don't know asks for my address, claiming to have a very old pair. I made a picture. He's not lying. An old pair of sewing scissors, the golden handle, sharp blade. I eagerly sent my address and giggle. I closed my laptop and tucked it under my mattress before curling up with my little dog and falling asleep. The next day out of nowhere, I receive a package from a boy in a dark outfit. It has no return address. The boy simply waves and says, good luck. I watch the dark figure vanishing into distance. It could have been older than 10 or 11. I shrug. Observing the package after school, I realize it has no return address. My friend Shannon takes a look at the packaging and can deduce nothing of it. I tear away the brown paper and look at a small wooden box inside. And encrusted on it is a pentacle. I shrug it off since I've seen them so many times. Opening the box, my heart skips a beat. What am I expecting? I'm not really sure. Shannon blinks at the pair of scissors, their golden handle gleaming, and sharp blade just dying to cut something they were in time. And the small dog in my lap whimpered suddenly and leapt down. He began to growl at my shoulder and barked. His eyes grew wide and feared he wanted before turning and fleeing into the kitchen, down the hall. Shannon shrugged and looked over at the clock. I gotta go. Have fun with your new scissors, Hannah. I smiled and waved. As Shannon walked down the road and away, I looked into the trees across the street. The dark trees shivered. I shrugged. I turned into my house, pulling the door closed with the edge of my foot. The door creaks until, BAM! The door shuts. I sat quietly in my bed and admired the shiny handle and the sharp blade. I felt myself overwhelmed with the fear of some familiar bloodlust. The bloodlust I felt sometimes when my insomnia was too much and the screams were too loud. I put on a creepypasta, the stranger's dark voice whispering me, blowing me. I chuckled as I heard screams and gunshots. I don't remember the title of the creepypasta now, but it was one of those ones where you had certain until the ending. I put the scissors in their box and placed them on my shelf. I lay in my bed and closed my eyes. I don't remember all the details, but here's the dream I had that night. It's dark. I hear heavy breathing. Someone grabs my ankle. I look down. It's me. I'm bleeding, crying, desperately trying to stand on two completely destroyed legs. My baby brother is lying on the floor, and I go back to rolling him. A wicked laugh comes from the person I am in the dream. For now, we'll call her Sarah. Sarah silently grabs my baby brother, and I begin to panic. I look down at my shredded legs. Desperation becomes more and more apparent. Sarah swings up her scissors and slams down into the baby boy's belly. She rips it open and pulls out a bit of his intestines, flicking them onto my head. I begin to cry and rips a small baby heart out of him. I become speechless. Those damn scissors! I shrieked in horror. The baby boy began wailing in the corner. I turned to see the boy who'd given me the package that day. He cried and screamed, "Mommy, please!" I drew back in horror. The little one looked at me and grabbed my shirt. "Please don't let Mommy hurt anyone anymore, please." I wake up. My hands are covered in blood and I'm crying. The small puppy I used to hug tightly lays in a crumpled heap and blood soaked into the carpet around it. The scissors were clenched in my hand. My eyes went wide so fast I thought they would explode. A quiet whisper said, "Are you satisfied now? Do you need more people to die, or will you stop?" I looked up. The one from my dream. Sarah. How do I know her name? I'm not even sure. I quietly backed away and shook my head, back until I hit the wall. Sarah stepped forward and opened her arms. My arms raised themselves. "I own you, love," she laughed, pulling me into the coldest hug I've ever had in my life. She spun around as I opened the door, my legs weak and limp. The hallway was covered in blood. Sarah pushed me to the living room. My eyes were filled with tears when I turned to the corner. It was my family, all strung up and butchered. I looked down at my legs. They were covered in blood and cut up, which would explain why it was so hard to walk. Sarah wrapped her arms around my fathers and hugged my brothers. I watched Nora as she danced around the room, singing at the top of her lungs. It's a small world after all. I backed away until I fell to my knees. I felt cold metal under my hand, those damn scissors. The tall woman looked at the scissors. You hate me, she whispered. I backed up to the wall, desperate, kicking. She crept closer, crying, I think. Everybody hates me. I silently hugged my knees and looked at the ceiling. Sarah sat down next to me and took my hand. I thought you wanted them to be quiet. I thought you wanted my scissors. She looked down. I almost felt the need to comfort her. She smiled at the ceiling. Maybe someone loves me. I looked at her and she smiled back. I did it to my family, too, only I took my life as well. I looked at her, fading in the morning light. Finally, just her voice whispering to me, it's okay, I'll always love you. I closed my eyes and woke in my bed again. That day I didn't leave my bed. All the blood was gone. My legs were fine. I didn't hear a word all day. Finally, the sun set, but that night nobody showed up and I did not sleep. Stood up, walked into the kitchen, now looking at my mutilated family in the living room. Picked up the phone, dialed the police. Spent the next 3 days in the facility. I sat quietly in the little white room. Finally, the door opened. I was free to go. A boy in dark clothes greeted me at the door. Is this your brother? I blinked, but not anyway. He grabbed my hand, a woman in dark clothes, and grabbed his. She looked at me from under a black veil. Hello, Hannah. I looked at her. I looked at Sarah. I looked back in the hallway filled with blood and gore. I heard the screams of other patients. It was just too much. I was given 2 choices. I could give back the scissors and go. I don't know where. Or I could keep them and spend the rest of my life killing people to satisfy an evil spirit's dark hatred. What did I choose, you ask? Well, I told you I loved scissors, didn't I?